everybody, and thank you for joining us today at BritCon. I'm Olivia, more publicly known as Domestic Cosplay, and I am so excited to be here with Chris Thompson today. Hi, Chris.
How's it going?
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Glad to be here.
So you are primarily an artist, would be the best term because that kind of incorporates everything.
But I sort of started branding myself as like a freelance creative. It sounds quite pretentious, but like because I do like art, I do animation, I do a little bit of video filming, I do writing. It's a bit of a head melt trying to like get across what I am in the CV.
Now, freelance, to have your kind of portfolio and consider yourself freelance, that's an accomplishment right there. How did you get started in all this?
So like whenever I was back in school, like I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And like I wanted to be like outlandish things like astronauts and superheroes and whatever. But I remember whenever it was like 2004, 2005 was whenever the new Thunderbirds film and the new Captain Scarlet series were in production. And I remember getting quite excited whenever all the like little behind the scenes pieces would leak out, like all the concept art, what everything was going to look like came out. And I remember being really, really buzzed and excited about that to the point that I started making my own little animations and movies. And that sort of came on to whenever I started off with like an 11-second spy camera that could take like 11 seconds of quiet video. And I made like little movies with my brother where we'd have to dub in all the dialogue and sound effects afterwards. And there was like really bad like bitmap CG stuff going on around it. And from then I went and started making little movies with my friends. I made this kind of a bunch of animated shorts called EDF Earth Defense Force, which is basically like a Thunderbirds knockoff. But it just kept getting a bit more outlandish from there. And it meant that like having to overcome all these problems of having no equipment and no money to buy like software, I kept coming up with all these like fixes or workarounds to do everything. And that kind of built up a lot of experience in just like how to make stuff and like how cinema works and how to kind of jury rig. Like this picture here is from EDF. I'd made this actual picture I did a couple of years afterwards, but like that's basically what like the craft I designed back then looked like, pretty much like for like. Like that's.
Now you're saying back then. When was back then?
Back then would have been about 2006 to 2007, I'd say. So I would have been 15, 17.
So you made this when you were 17?
Yeah, well, I think this exact image I made whenever I was like 20, 22, but the actual, like I think those models are basically the same models I was using back whenever I was like 16, 17.
Oh, wow, nice.
And like from there, we kept going. Like after EDF, we did our own version of the Lost Doctor Who episode, Mission to the Unknown, and I did a Thunderbirds fan film that got noticed, and it sort of all kind of contributed to where I am today.
Nice. So you talked about the financial aspects of getting involved. And I know as a cosplayer, that's one of the big things that holds a lot of people back. So for the young artists out there that are like, I want to do this, what would you recommend? How would you recommend they start just playing and getting into this? And
I would say literally just that. Like a lot of people sit around and wait to go to college before they start this kind of stuff, and I don't think that's terribly healthy. I think any phone these days can take video. Blender, the 3D program I use, is free. You can pretty much learn any skill just by like YouTube tutorials and things like that, like just by basically just mess around, just make stuff. It doesn't have to be good. As long as like you're sort of constructive with what you make, and then you learn to try and do something different each time, and eventually you'll start developing the skills that could get you into college and beyond.
Oh yeah, definitely, awesome. So I got to ask you something. On your website, you've got a little blurb here.
Yeah.
And so you say, after you talk about who you are, I've been working across a variety of projects and I've amassed a wide range of skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you're not looking for a freelance creative, then that will be the end of it. But if you are, then I will look for you. I will find you and I will endeavor to impress the hell out of you.
Are you familiar with the mid-2000s feature film Taken with Liam Neeson?
Oh my goodness, vaguely. It's been a long time.
It's a line from that which I kind of manipulated a bit. I have a bit of a habit of not really taking my CV or portfolio that seriously, mainly just because I think the amount of like CVs I think that kind of people get, like it's hard to differentiate. So like having just a little bit of humor in my, I figured, why not?
Well, I mean, it's your art. If you can't have fun with it, then what's the point, right?
Exactly, yeah. It's like I'm an adult that designs fictional spaceships for a living. Like, a bit of that. Gotta roll with it.
Speaking of spaceships, you've actually got a picture at a place that's really cool. And like, I've never gotten to go, but I do. It's on my bucket list. So you've been to NASA.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Turns out NASA's really cool.
Has it inspired you at all? Like,
it was an odd one because that was 2016, so I would have been 26. Still have that T-shirt and stuff, freshman. But kind of like I'd already started like working professionally in this kind of field, and it was sort of by chance. Like I was in America for a wedding. You don't get that many opportunities to go to America whenever you're a struggling freelance artist, and so it was like. We worked out that we could just go down to Florida, chill out there for a bit, go to theme parks. Then I remembered like NASA's in Florida. Let's go to NASA. And like it was just a really like obviously it's quite exciting to be in the place where it happens, so to speak. Like they've got the gantry that Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and the other one. I always feel really bad for forgetting his name. Like that walked out to Apollo 11, and Michael Collins, that's him. And
us Americans do it too. We forget him too. It's horrible. It's so bad.
We love you, man. Yeah, like I think because I come from Northern Ireland, Belfast specifically, the only like real space thing that we have around is the Armagh Planetarium. I'm not dissing the Armagh Planetarium. It's a lovely establishment, and I really wish they'd return my calls one day. But it's nice to actually go to like NASA and be like, that's the gantry, that's a rocket. Like you walk through a pair of double doors and you've got the rear end of a Saturn V rocket, which is about the size, 3-4 times the size of my house. And it's like, this is pretty cool.
Nice. So has it inspired your work going forward at all? Any of the stuff any little tidbits you learned? Something that was like, oh, well, yeah.
Sort of.
That's like how that should go.
It's sort of like, I took a lot of reference photos when I was out there, and I think it was really mainly the scale of everything. You never really appreciate how big the space shuttle is or how big rockets are. And also like I try to pick up a bit of science along the way whenever I'm designing things. I don't think it's actually vital whenever you're designing fictional things. Like I very much believe in like a happy medium between actually physically works and complete fantasy. So yes, I took some stuff from it, but I'm also like I don't mind flying completely off book and designing something absolutely wild.
Now, for me, as an American, I gotta say, some of the art you've done for Captain Scarlet seems kind of wild. But
okay.
It's awesome. So tell us about some of that.
Basically, one of the things I'm kind of most well known for is like my artwork in regards to Jerry Anderson stuff. So over the years, I used to do it kind of more as a fun side thing along with the fan film I did. But I would do stuff for Captain Scarlet, Thunderbirds. I think Foundation Convention in 2010 started using it for like borders and like screensavers and things like that during the convention, and it's kind of meant that I've really been able to break into that niche, and I now do a lot of artwork for like sort of the Jerry Anderson world. That particular photo you put up right there was actually quite fun because so that's from the new series of Captain Scarlet from 2005, and basically a lot of the models and all the kind of, it was computer generated and everything was kind of junked after the show. Like a bank bought up everything, and then it's because like computers date really quickly and there were use for it. So we thought that like everything from the show had been lost in some regard. And we were working on a Captain Scarlet related project, and we had messaged Dominic Lavery, who was like a director and co-producer and things like that on the show. And he was like, well, I don't have the models from the show, but like I can give you a ton of reference. I was like, cool. So then he sent us the models from the show. He didn't realize he had them on like a hard drive, just accidentally mailed them to me. So, which was very nice. And but I fixed them all up so that they work in Blender now. And yeah, I've done some art with them. So that's actually the original Rhino design that they used in the animated Captain Scarlet, and that's me leaning on it for scale.
I gotta say, I love that picture. Just you chilling.
Just chilling. This is my very big and practical train of a vehicle.
Of course, you know.
How many wheels do you need?
Depends on where you're going.
Yeah, true. Big turning circle on that one.
So, gotta ask about another project that you've been working on, Terrahawks.
Terrahawks. Yeah, so I've done a couple of things for Terrahawks over the years. Terrahawks is like an 80s TV show that was made by Jerry Anderson, and it's one of the shows that one of the companies I do work with and do work for is Anderson Entertainment. We still own the rights to. So over time, we'd brought the show back, the original actors back on audio, and I had designed a couple of things for that, the Tomahawk, and some like side like a vague artwork around it. Like what we have up is Hawkwing, and I did some trailer stuff with that. And then recently, we've been working on a new version of Terrahawks over at Anderson Entertainment, like a slightly like updated, kind of darker. I can't say too much about it, but yeah, I got to design the entire set of Terrahawks craft and the Zeroids and a bunch of things like that. And that was like my first big sort of go at basically being sort of like the first concept artist on the ground. Like, you're going to redesign everything. This is what the look of the show is going to be. So that was quite exciting. I think there's 2 designs kicking about the web. So I guess if you search new Terrahawks, you can see the new Battlehawk and the new Zeroid kicking about somewhere.
So how hard is it to take a franchise you love, you're a fan of, and then work on it like on this level, and just, you know, that's gotta have some weight that goes with it, just from your own love.
No, it's weird and it's surreal, and it's very hard to describe. I think a good example is I do a lot of stuff for Doctor Who as well, and yeah, particularly working on like some of the recent stuff. I did a trailer for Christopher Eccleston's Doctor Who series recently.
Humanity, locked on a single planet, one time, one place. I don't know how you stand it. It's a big universe out there, and you haven't even scratched the surface. Well, it's time to change that. You're going to hear amazing things. You'll go from the Firth of Forth to alien worlds, to the Sphere of Freedom and a giant necropolis. You'll hear musicians in Paris play deadly games, meet monsters on movie sets and the real Macbeth. There'll be new enemies and old friends, people to lose and people to save, and every day the universe at stake. I can't promise it'll be safe. In fact, it'll be very dangerous indeed. But it'll be the greatest journey you'll ever take, I promise you. It'll be fantastic. So tell me, do you want to come on board?
And like Doctor Who came back on my 15th birthday, back in 2005. So I've always sort of had that little bit of a, like, it took me a while to get into the new series, but like it always had that special place in my heart. So suddenly, like 16 years later, being the guy to kind of make the new trailer to bring it back, like getting these audio files from Christopher Eccleston, who's not done the role in like all this time, and getting to be on like the ground level before all that, it was just such a strange and bizarre experience. But you sort of
imagine.
You've kind of got to separate yourself from it as well, and just kind of like sometimes take your fan hat off and put on the sort of like kind of workable side of things. Like I'm working on a Space 1999 project I never thought I'd get to work on, and that's been an odd one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, lots of stuff blowing up. Yes, Space is another one of those ones. It's another Jerry Anderson show. It's got a huge following, and currently I'm writing a book on it, specifically on the Moonbase and Moonbase Alpha and the technical manual and everything surrounding it. So the Eagles, and basically got to work out where they poop and where the restaurant is and all the things you never saw in the show.
So tell us about this tech manual.
So there's not too much I can say about it. Like I think there was like it was announced in like a statement of a bunch of books that came out. So there's not a whole lot that you
can give us.
Well, I can show you that. Like, that is like you can see a bit of it. Like there, it's Moonbase Alpha. It's the model I've spent 7 months producing, based off all the reference I can, replicating every little piece of plastic art and model kit bits on the original model, and pulling my hair out. Finished it at like 3 a.m. this morning. So it's but yeah, again, it comes back into that surrealness because there was very little of Space 1999 doesn't actually have a whole lot of world building. So they kind of like talk about a bunch of things, but for the most part, it's all on the moon. And then once the moon gets blown out of orbit, which is the core premise of the show, you don't really hear much about Earth again. So it's been quite interesting going back and talking about like why the moon base looks like that, like why the Eagles, like the spaceships that they use in it, like look the way they do, like what did they evolve from, just lots of waffling about moon bases and how you get water from like the moon lunar surface and solar panels and just that kind of thing. So
just wanted to point out to everybody real quick, you're pointing to your screen right there next to you and talking about that specifically. So everybody, make sure you're looking at that. Like, look at that.
Look at this bad boy. Look at it.
Yes.
Yeah, there he is. Can't tell you too much of that, but there he is.
So you touched on it a bit as far as the video work. You've been doing a lot of work with Big Finish.
I have.
And a lot of their promos. What can you tell us about that?
So I started working with Big Finish. Again, I do me and Jamie Anderson do a lot of work together, and he brought me on to initially just do some models for the Terrorhawks side of things in Big Finish. But then I started working with Big Finish themselves in a couple of projects. So I worked with Tom Saunders on like their Prisoner video and a few, the War Doctor series I did some models for. And eventually they started giving me my own trailers to work on. So I did a trailer for the Sontarans, which was like my first Doctor Who one. And I did one for Star Cops, which is another series that they had come up with. And eventually, we just kind of kept making the trailers more and more complicated. We've done some really, really cool ones. There's my favorite one is we got to bring, it was like for a Paul McGann episode called Ravenous. and it was all like horror based, and it was like the TARDIS in like a wood, and like the camera would fly through the doors into the console room, like that console room, which hasn't been seen since like 1996, and then, like all these creatures that come out of the walls, and it's very scary. At least I think so. Too hot for the BBC YouTube at any rate. And yeah, that was really cool. Seeing the reaction to that was quite exciting. And so I've done that. I've done a couple of other cinematic trailers for them, which usually go down quite well. I mentioned the Christopher Eccleston one, but we also did Space 1999 as well. I think they're the main ones I've done for them. I've done some design work for Big Finish as well. So probably what I'm most well known for is the stained glass Dalek I designed back in 2016, I think, which was for like that one, yes, which was for Order of the Daleks, which was a story sort of directed by Jamie Anderson and written by Mike Tucker, and that went down quite well. I think there was people didn't quite expect it to go down quite as well as it did, but I think just because it's such an unusual thing, it was able to breach the gap between like normal people who like appreciate stained glass and artwork and things and Doctor Who fans. So it was quite.
How does it feel to see your work recreated by fans?
Quite good. So a few cosplayers, Shady Bell and there's another lady that's out in America. Shaylee's trying to do a full scale one, and the other lady made some cosplay. So she recreated the panels on her skirt and like had a headdress and things. There's a very lovely photo of her of Stephen Moffat. I don't know if Stephen Moffat knows about it. But, and yeah, there was. I keep running in on Instagram people that have done Stingley as like their school art project, and like there's been a few of those, and I think there's at least one full scale like ironwork Dalek that that was inspired by Stingley, and yeah, I think a guy in England's just done a Davros chair in the same.
I love that Davros.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. But I've from there actually also I've literally just redesigned the Cybermen as well for Big Finish. So haven't seen too much of them. They popped up at the end of the Doctor Who of the Christopher Eccleston trailer, but they should be revealed fairly shortly. Like there's the second volume of the Ninth Doctor Adventures, Responsible Calls, is out soonish. So yeah, hopefully you'll get a sneak peek of Volume 3 in that one.
So what's it like to recreate, like, because like to upgrade the Cybermen?
Well, I actually downgraded the Cybermen rather than because I don't know, like it's kind of odd. Like I think so. There's several schools of thought whenever it comes to doing the Cybermen, and because obviously they started off like kind of like very body horror, very like. They're like 50% human, 50% bits stuck onto them. And then like by the time that you get to like the new series, they're almost like they're basically robots with brains in them. And I think like and then like that's not necessarily the wrong way to look at it. Like it's obviously been quite successful in own right. It's just not really the kind of Cybermen that I like. Yeah, I kind of wanted to basically go back to what they were in the 60s, particularly like in the Moonbase and Tomb of the Cybermen, where they're very much like there's like they look like robots, but there's definitely a person in there. And I was asked to take a look at like the Metropolis robot because like that's relevant to the story that the Cyberman turns up in. So yeah. It was like so stylistically like that, but also I kind of figured that if you're going to get turned into a robot, you wouldn't want to get turned into like a cool robot that can fly. Like if you see this thing which is like really janky and it's like rusty and like there's like guns all over it and it's got this really terrifying silhouette, you're not going to want to be that. So that was my logic, but yeah.
So along those lines, kind of following the path along your work, you also do some 3D design work with it's an Ashton.
Yeah, so I've worked with Richard on a number of things, just kind of like producing little models here and there. So Richard does a lot of cosplay props and things like that, and like I've started making them myself. Like I've got a gun wall, and
So you made all those?
yeah, that like every Christmas I have like a project. So I've been so busy, I've not really got around to this one. But any Mass Effect fans kicking about, like that's the Mako that I've been building quite slowly over the last couple of months. But yeah, and like I've been 3D printing some fun stuff for my friends. So I made a Mistron detector for my friend AC, which is like a very obscure birthday gift, but he seemed to enjoy it. And I think it's just like I really appreciate being able to take what I put on there and just to be able to print it out and just play with it. Like I get to build all the toys that I never got to have whenever I was a kid.
Definitely. That's one of the things I like most about cosplay is like you get to pretend and play.
Get to be. Yeah.
So with all your various mediums that you've got your fingers in, what's your favorite?
Ooh, what one do I have the least to do in? I think it would probably just be the art, really, because like I love filmmaking after it's done. No, I love the bit where it's like just before. I love the bit when I come up with the idea, and I love the bit like after it's been shot. But like the sort of in between bit where you're just like having to physically do the thing is always kind of like head melty. I think I do a thing called therapy art, which every so often I'll just like take a night out and just design something cool for the hell of it that I'm not getting paid for, or like I just like if I like that. There's Bulbasaur, he's cool.
Oh,
Um, and I'll just be like, right, let's just do some cool art here, and just for me. So I guess it is like art's probably the more relaxing side of things, unless it's not working, in which case it's stressful. But you know, what isn't? But yeah, now there's also a couple of couple of things because I seem to started working. All the things that I've kind of aspired to work on whenever I grow up, I've actually ended up working on. I've started to like gravitate to ones I haven't. So I'm a big Godzilla fan and a big Star Trek fan. So you'll find me probably doing a lot of art with those just one day.
so I like that you use the term therapy art. Can you go into that and like just your views on that aspect of the creative process?
Well, I think the problem whenever you basically what's that quote like do what you love work get a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's not true. So every so often you sort of need to like just stop and just do something for you, like kind of like remind yourself why you love doing this. that sounds really dark, but well, not really dark, but really depressing. But like, it's just like for the Space 1999 book, for an example, like I have spent the last year modeling everything from Space 1999. Like and like as exciting as that is, like that's a lot of work. So I've had to take time out to basically just sit down and be like, right, okay, today I'm just going to make a rocket ship, and this is going to be fun, or like just work on something else for a bit, really. So it's kind of like that. It's just kind of trying not to burn out on what you're working on. I think it's probably the best way to go about it.
So with the Burnout, how do you pick your projects? Like, do people just come to you and be like, oh, hey, do you want to do this? Or is it like, you have to like put yourself out there?
Well, I'm quite lucky because I work with like basically I get enough frequent employment from like Amazon Entertainment and Big Finish, and I work. I do a lot of stuff like locally with Northern Ireland Opera, just shooting stuff for them, and I've just done a bunch of films for an autism charity down for like the other side of Northern Ireland in a city called Derry. So like I'm quite lucky that I don't like. I've never had to do like a boring corporate video. Like everyone tells me that like you don't really like you've got to like these projects are very very brief. You've got to enjoy them while they last. Whereas like nobody's ever come to me being like, "Hey, could you just do our conference on global economic planning or something?" Like it's. I'm very lucky. So I also not like I've more recently I've actually had to start turning down projects because like over the course of like COVID and things like that, like everything exploded really. Like all the money that was usually invested in like live events and things like that just suddenly went into digital. So like recently I've actually had to start turning stuff down, which for me is like kind of alien, but also like you've got to take care of yourself as well. Like
Yep, got to take that me time. Otherwise, again, what's the point?
pretty much, yeah. But yeah, no, I think it is just like I am incredibly lucky, and hopefully it'll continue. So,
So, on the art side, do you ever delve into like the pen and paper art, or is it pretty much just on the digital side that you prefer to?
every so often, like I remember. So basically, the short answer is no. The long answer is every so often I try to get back into the kind of classical way of doing art and drawing and things like that. I can't draw people to save my life. They look awful. I used to have an example kicking about, and I think I burned it. Like I have a second job working in Dr. Martin. Oh yeah, there we go. I was asked to draw my manager for a thing, and that's not great, is it? But like I do some like a couple of shifts a week in Dr. Martin's in town, the boot people, and yeah, we were doing like an art project over COVID when we had to draw each other, and it was kind of embarrassing because like I'm a professional artist of like minor renown, and it's like I can't do this.
People are hard though.
People are hard. Like I remember bonding with Mike Trim, and like he was like, "Don't do people, like just landscapes and rocket ships is his jam." But yeah, so and like I would love to do people. Like I've been slowly getting into like characters and animating sort of things that way for a couple of projects that I can't talk about just yet. But like it's kind of I guess it's nice to have like your like something that you don't quite know how to use, don't quite know how to do yet. Like not so you're always trying to improve and you're not getting complacent. So I'm not going to complain about it too much. But yeah, no, I think it's like practical art, something I do really really want to work on. But like I've started model building, so I guess that's like not in the apocalypse, whenever all the electricity goes out, like I'm not going to be too scundered.
That's what I tell people. I can I can. They're like, how's costuming gonna attribute to? So, well, I can make clothes. Everyone needs to put clothes on.
Just like knitting your way into the apocalypse. Just like here we go, just throwing this up. Like we're all going to look fabulous.
We'll be fighting for our lives, but we won't be naked.
The production design will be excellent.
Well, and like when it comes to the building, that's actually like you have to figure out how you're going to put things and where you're going to put them. So, I mean, there really is, it's less about what you're making and more the process of figuring out how to make it, how you're going to put that together.
Don't want to put those like 4 years of technology at school to waste. I just want Mr. Templeton to be proud.
So what would you say is your favorite trick or tool that you've learned over the years?
Oh, I don't really have one because I'm sort of always learning new ones. Like I've been working on a Doctor Who trailer there, which like will become much more apparent in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or eventually. But for it, I used particles for like the first time, so like lots of glowy, wavy lights and things like that. And like that looked pretty cool. I'm not gonna I'm gonna do a lot more of that in the future. Before that, literally actually on the same thing, I worked out to this like one. I saw Tenants, you know, the film that came out recently, Christopher Nolan's,
Yeah.
and that's got like lots of stuff going backwards and forwards, and some stuff's in the shots going backwards, or some stuff in the shots going forward. So I wanted to do something like that. So in this particular thing I'm working on, like there's debris falling from the ceiling, but the camera's like still flying through, and then debris starts flying back up again, and like things start reforming, and so like I think that's I'm quite pleased with that. That and the undo button. The undo button's quite useful. Big fan.
Oh God, yes, yes.
Autosave, also very, very nice.
No, not that. Not that. Not what I wanted.
Why do I destroy everything I touch?
Go back. Go back. Run away. That's what they always do in Doctor Who. Run.
Yeah, just I have made art, and therefore I shall panic. But yeah, no, I think I think particularly like with the 3D program I use, Blender, like it's so huge. Like I've barely scratched the surface and the kind of things it can do. So like I'm always finding out new things, and I have this habit of I do this quite a lot, probably too much, but I think it's healthy in that, like, whenever somebody's like, "Hey, Chris, we've got this project coming up. Like, do you know how to do this thing?" And I don't know how to do it, but after like one night of staying up all night watching YouTube, I will know how to do it. So, you know, just doing a lot, like, kind of, it's not dishonest if you can learn how to do it very quickly, I guess. So, yeah, creative lying. That's another good wholesome piece of advice for an upcoming artist.
Well, I mean, it's always it's half the battle's just knowing where to find the information, especially nowadays, because things change so quickly, and like new tech comes out or something else is happening. So if you know how to find the information, that's sometimes better than knowing the information. Because that way, you know, you might know the information only to realize that it's last year's information and it's all different now.
Yeah, I get the same with, again, Blender. It evolves so fast, and so does like Photoshop and After Effects and things like that. Like, and then you look up tutorials, and it's almost like it's like from 8 years ago, and the guy is like running his like Windows 98, just being like, "Here we are." But first, I'm going to tell you my life story. Subscribe, and then now I'm going to tell you how to do the 30-second thing in this 7-minute video.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I guess like every day's a school day. Just keep learning.
So, you talked about teachers and stuff a lot. Who would you say out of your teachers was your most inspirational, and how were they? How did they inspire you to kind of be who you are?
Well, I think my like it was kind of odd because I used to go to the school called Campbell College, which is like it's like a very posh looking school, sort of in Belfast that was almost Hogwarts, and like it literally was almost Hogwarts. Like it was it was on the list of schools that were going to be like list of locations that was going to be used. But whenever I was like sort of studying there, they didn't have a film student program, so the only sort of way you could do film was like a weird like slight get out clause in the art projects. Like there was like a second route you can go down, which nobody had ever done before. And I asked Miss Roberts, who was my art teacher at the time, like, can I do this? And like she was just like, yeah, sure. So that's how I became my school's first ever film student. And then I had to meet up with Miss Roberts like a few years after I left, basically because they had started doing film studies, and had to end up teaching her stuff, which was odd. So that was pretty cool. Like I've had like a lot of the stuff I've kind of learned, I've sort of done so on my own, just because sort of like 11, 12 years ago, there just wasn't it wasn't that big sort of thing about the place. Like there wasn't like you had to go to like America or London to go to like film school or animation school, and a lot of like sort of the animation studios, like particularly in Belfast. Belfast is only very recently sort of developing as a hub for like production, and comes with Game of Thrones and like a lot of kids' TVs made over here as well. So for the most part, yeah, a lot of this is self-taught. I did go to I did an HND in college in film and media, and while I've not actually had to use the qualification, it did take a chip off my shoulder, because like I think the problem is that like going to school and everyone being like, wow, you're gonna be like so famous and stuff, and then like going out in the real world with no actual skills. I did sort of need to kind of like grow up a bit and realize that I actually had to go back and like learn stuff and not be so up myself about it. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And then obviously I've had people along the way be very helpful in always championing me. Like Jamie Anderson's always been brilliant in recommending me to people and giving me work whenever he can, which is always appreciated. So yeah.
Nice. What's your favorite piece that you have done? You had to pick one thing.
Like in like, it's kind of like theoretically, it's always what you've just finished until like a year down the line, and then you hate it. So there's a piece I did which was like of Thunderbird 2, and it's launching. It's basically pulling a submarine out of the water. Like there's like a crash submarine and it's pulling it out of the water, and it's like in a huge storm, and there's these two ships around it. And like there was a painting in the museum I kind of based it around, of like the ship getting shipwrecked in the ocean, and I keep revisiting that and kind of patching it up a bit, partly because like I like the image, but also like I know that's the one piece of art I've done that Jerry Anderson definitely saw, because he signed, a friend of mine brought it over to him to get it signed. So like I've got a lot of appreciation for that. I think a couple of the trailers, like a lot of them, like for Big Finish, a lot of them have gone down pretty well, obviously, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I like them, because you see all the flaws in your own work. But I do have, like, I was quite pleased with that Ninth Doctor trailer, the Christopher Eccleston one, because, like, for the most part, it came out roughly as I had it in my head, and I'm really excited for people to see the next one, because, like, I've just got the audio back for it, and the guy's done an amazing job. So, and like that is something I do need to mention, is that whenever I do trailers for Big Finish, I'll have rough sound design notes, but like it will always be like their wonderful audio technicians like Benji Clifford, Howard Carter, Robert Harvey, and all, who make it sound amazing, because that's not my field of expertise at all. So big shout out to those guys.
So what do you do for fun? Like just
fun. So yeah. I'm a workaholic, because again, do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. So I just do this all the time. I do a lot of running. So like, you'll see me. I do like 10Ks around Belfast, like once a week at least. Beyond that, just climbing, just keeping active. Yeah, just building things. Not watching as much TV as I would like, but like I'm behind in so many things. But yeah, no, just trying to stay active, really. Looking forward to going back to conventions as well.
Oh gosh, conventions. Yes, in person. Seeing people again.
There's there's a couple that I do in England. I'm looking forward to going back, but I am hopefully going to start doing international ones again. So who knows? Maybe I might come over and see you guys. If I'm in
Please, oh my goodness. If you do, I'm looking forward to sitting down and having a chat with you in person. Really getting to like, okay, about this 3D modeling, because I know I need to pick your brain on that. That's an avenue I've been wanting to dive into. And it's just actually working in Blender. I've been like, how do I'm someone that learns by doing, and yeah, I just haven't been able to do.
Like, I would say, like, if you're going to get into it, now is probably the best time, because it's they've streamlined everything, and they've done, like, there's a lot of YouTube tutorials and things like that, like, but also, like, there's always that, like with me, it took me three attempts to be like, download this, okay, what is this, how does it work, etc. And it was only on my third attempt I was just like, I think I've got the hang of this. Mainly because I worked at a shoe shop at the time and I quit just because I wasn't happy there, and I was like, right, now I've got to justify this decision and actually learn this thing. So like, yeah, no, you'll be able to pick it up. It's great fun.
So where can people find you if they want to find your work and they want to find out what you're doing? Where do people go?
Coordinates. No. So I'm on Instagram at ChrisXL5. I'm on Facebook at CT Design and Illustration, and I think you guys popped up my portfolio earlier. There we go. That's me. So yeah, you can find me around there.
And just before we close, is there anything that we haven't touched that you're got coming up that you really want to talk about and like, or shine some light on and let us know?